Riding a motorcycle in cold and wet weather like we have here in the Pacific Northwest right now can be both a miserable and dangerous experience. But there's lots of things you can do to make it much more pleasant and safe. As older riders, we're much more susceptible to the effects of cold. As we age, our bodies have much less tolerance for cold weather. There are a lot of reasons for that, but suffice it to say, the older you get, the more the cold's going to bother you. Riding unprepared in the cold and the wet is not just uncomfortable, it's actually dangerous. Your reaction time's slow, your tires don't grip as well because they're harder, your bike doesn't perform as well, and you don't perform as well. If your hands and feet get cold, you're not going to be able to feel your controls. If your face gets cold, you're going to grit your teeth and you're just going to be absolutely miserable. And the more miserable you are, the less you are able to concentrate on what you're doing. So I wanted to share a couple of tips that I've come across in my time riding in this kind of weather. And let's face it, if I didn't ride in this kind of weather, here in Portland I'd ride about 3 months out of the year. Because otherwise it's either raining or cold and raining. That's just how it is here. I think cold weather riding comfort starts in one place, and that's in your jacket. The jacket that I happen to be wearing today is the, Alpinestars Bogota Pro? Sure, I don't know. All I know is it's like 3 or 4 layers of jacket. That's how it comes. You got the outer shell, which is in and of itself fairly protective. If you just wear this in the summer, it's fine. If you wear this in the winter just like this, you're going to freeze. Underneath this, it comes with a thermal layer, and that really helps out. There's a back pocket on this thing, and in that back pocket, I've put the included rain shell. That rain shell is not just good for rain, but if it's windy and chilly, you throw that over the jacket or under it. It works both ways. And that just cuts out like almost all of the wind. It really improves your heat retention. And so sometimes I'll just chuck it on even if it's not raining. But if I could give you one piece of advice, that one piece of advice would be go to Costco and spend $100 and get the heated vest that I'm wearing underneath this thing. I don't know who makes it. I had a friend pick it up for me, and it comes with a little rechargeable battery pack that on high lasts about 4 hours. And I'm telling you right now, it is a game changer. It's an absolute game changer. It's 41 degrees right now. That's not all that cold, but the other day I was out, it was probably 34, 35. I cranked this thing up to high. I rode for miles and miles and miles and never got uncomfortable. It was fantastic. I'm sure any cheap heated vest will do. This one just happens to be one that I picked up at Costco for, I don't know, like $100. And I'm telling you, complete game changer. Underneath this, I have a real thin merino base layer from, I don't know, LL Bean or something. And that's just perfect because not only does it sort of wick away sweat if you happen to sweat and you get too warm, but it actually does keep you warm even though it's real thin. The next most important thing that I would recommend is a good set of gloves. Now, I don't necessarily recommend these gloves per se. They're Alpinestars DryStar gloves, and they're fine. I don't really know that they're all that waterproof, but they're fine. But the key to these gloves are the sort of gauntlet thing that goes over your wrist. The other day, I went out, it was cold, and I had short cuff gloves on. And my hands themselves were fine, but I was frozen, even with the heated vest. I couldn't figure out why. I couldn't figure out what the difference was. And then I realized that I wasn't wearing these gloves that sort of blocked the wind from going up your sleeve, and that's exactly what was happening. The wind was going right up my sleeve, right into my jacket, and just freezing me out. So now when the weather's cold, I won't leave without cuffed gloves like this. It's just, there's no question. The next most important tip I can give you is this thing here, this snood. It's another thing kind of like the gloves where it blocks a hole, right? It blocks wind from sort of getting into your neck, and that goes a long way in keeping you warm and comfortable. Not only that, but if you get real cold, You can use this thing as a, what is it called? A baklava? Balaclava. Yeah, that's what it is. That'll cover your face. That'll cover your head. You can wear it on and off the bike like that, and it's just fantastic. Never leave the house when it's cold without one of these Neck Gaiter things. Snood, I like to call it. So I've gotten a lot of questions about my helmet, and especially about the goggles and why I wear goggles. The reason I wear this helmet, as I've stated in previous videos, is I just absolutely love it. I don't know. I just get a kick out of it, and I enjoy it. It's safe and whatever. It's not the best cold weather helmet in the world, to be honest, but it does its job. The goggles, I sort of started wearing because I thought they were fun. But then I came to a realization. These damn things don't fog up at all, ever. All of my other helmets, even with the pin lock visors and all that stuff, they'll fog. Maybe a little bit, maybe a lot of it, but they'll definitely fog, especially in moist, cold weather like this, and especially if I'm wearing glasses. However, these goggles, all 3 pairs of them that I have, they don't fog at all. They keep my vision completely clear, and I mean, let's face it, that's what you want, right? So, not all helmets can accept goggles, not all riders want to wear goggles, but if you're having fogging problems with your helmet, give this a shot. It's worked for me, and I kind of swear by it now. I wear my other helmets all the time, just because they're warmer or quieter or whatever, but when I'm out on a day like this and I really don't want to fog up, I'm going with the goggles. So just like cold hands can be absolutely miserable, so can cold feet. So I never go out in cold weather without wearing some sort of boot. And the boot that I've been wearing lately is this. It's the Sidi Adventure 2 with a GoreTex liner. Now, I'm no huge fan of GoreTex or anything like that, but I'm telling you right now, these things work. I've never, in all of the time I've had them and been riding in cold weather, had cold feet, or wet feet for that matter. They are squeaky as hell. So if you're walking around a store and you're wearing these, you're going to draw some attention. And it sounds goofy, but they work. I hear you can use some sort of silicone spray or something to get into the hinges and make them not squeak. So maybe that's something to try. I just haven't gotten around to it. But boots, especially boots with traction, because if there's any ice or anything whatsoever, even the wet, especially the wet, and it's mossy or anything like that, you gotta have boots that have some grip. Because I can't tell you how many times I've almost, slid a foot out when I wasn't wearing these boots and almost dropped a bike or something like that. So, boots that are waterproof, warm, and grippy. Underneath those boots, I have the goofiest set of knee-high ski socks. They're merino wool. They're made by Icebreaker, I believe. I'm not really sure. Not only do they keep my feet and my lower legs warm, but they're just comfortable as hell. It's like wearing leg pajamas. I don't know. They cover your whole lower leg, so the skin of your leg is never touching your boot. And highly recommend knee-high merino socks, especially merino socks, because if you're out on a tour with a bunch of people and you take your boots off, if you're wearing cotton socks or whatever, they're going to stink to high heaven. Merino wool has this natural capability of not absorbing odor, so they're kind of fantastic. Lastly, on gear, I'm wearing just basic CE level rated riding pants. I believe these are made by REV'IT. They're REV'IT cargo pants or something like that. I love them. I don't think that lower body warmth is as critical as keeping your torso warm, but again, if you're uncomfortable, then it's going to be distracting and you're going to hate life. Yeah! I don't know. You do you, buddy. So that's basically the gear. As far as the bike itself goes, I have 2 motorcycles. I have this Tiger 900 and I have a Scrambler 900. The Scrambler is pretty naked. All it has on it for wind protection is a set of these spark buster type things. The Tiger It's got a windscreen. It's got wide fairings. It's got heated grips. It's got a heated seat. It's basically a car. And so having a bike like this in the cold and wet weather is a godsend. If I have my choice when the weather's miserable, I'll always take this bike. However, on the Scrambler, when I installed those hand guards things, the bark buster type things, they really made a huge difference as far as keeping my hands nice and warm. The Scrambler has heated grips too, thanks to someone who watches this channel who gifted them to me. But the heated grips in combination with the bark buster handguard type things really make a huge difference and make the bike rideable in winter weather, where otherwise, if it didn't have heated grips, at the very least, I don't think I'd ever ride it if the temperature got below 45. With the proper gear, the jacket, the pants, the boots, the gloves, the snood, I'll ride the Scrambler in just about any weather. I just prefer to have a little extra comfort when I can or when I want to by taking the Tiger. It's just personal preference. But my point is, when the weather gets gray and miserable, so does my mood. I bet yours does too. And the last thing I want to do is not ride. The last thing I want to do is turn off my insurance, put the bike up on blocks. Is that what you do? I don't know. Put it on a battery tender and call it a winter. That's just not in my blood. So, I do everything I can to make sure that I'm comfortable and safe and that I have access to the one thing that really keeps my mind fresh, happy, and young, even when the weather is just absolute garbage. Of course, there's a limit. I've tried to set a temperature limit of somewhere around, say, 36 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm not exactly sure what that is in Celsius. I'll put it up on the screen. I would ride if it were 20 degrees probably, and in certain circumstances I will. But for the most part, if you look at the road right now, you can see that it's a little damp. As soon as this gets near freezing, that's going to freeze. And it's going to turn into a skating rink. And I don't want any part of that. I went for a ride with a friend the other day. Temperature was hovering around 32. We both knew better. But one of us learned an important lesson that day. And that is, make sure the roads have zero ice and zero capability of forming ice before you go out for a ride. Because that's just not worth it. Believe me. Anyway, that's my spiel about winter weather riding tips. And I'm sure you folks have some as well. So please leave a comment and let me know what it is that you do to stay warm and dry and safe when the weather turns, well, gray and miserable like it is here right now. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, I hope you'll consider subscribing to the channel and giving the video a thumbs up if that's the sort of thing that you're into doing. And I'll catch you on the next one.